the penultimate week, the second last week. It might be your final week. I don't actually care. It's the 24th week of the NBA season, the second last week of the regular season. We're going to preview it. Michael Bolton, that's a lot of talks about weeks and lasts and second lasts and penultimates. Should I shut up?
Thanks, Josh. It's Michael Bolton here, and it's time for another episode of the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Let's get to it.
Let's get to it, indeed.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NBA fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast, brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd, and this may be the final episode that I ever do of this show, as I have failed the skinfold clause in my contract. I'm also the lead fantasy analyst at basketballmonster.com, and you can find me on Blue Sky at joshloyd.bsky.social, on Twitter at redrock_bball, on TikTok at redrock_bball, and on Instagram at Locked On Fantasy Basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Also, go to LockedOnDaily.com. If you haven't signed up now, what the hell are you waiting for? Playoffs around the corner. Sign up. Newsletters, they're free. They're in your inbox 5 days a week. It's also free to subscribe here, whether it's audio or video. I don't really care which one. In fact, actually, I do care. I take that back. That was a lie. I want you to do both. That would make you a certified double banger. All right. It is week 24. It is, to begin week 24. And it is unbelievably. I can't believe we waited this long to get to this day. But it is today, on Sunday, National Pencil Day. Shout out to Barnsey. All right, let's get straight into talking about the week ahead, because this is important. If you are playing, especially in head-to-head, this is default Yahoo Championship week. So, again, if you are here and it is your championship week, W to you. If you are here and you're out of the fantasy playoffs and you're not playing fantasy anymore, actually, a double W to you. A triple U, maybe. Is that what? Is that hold on, I've been doing this for a long time this season, and we are running short of energy. All right, let's get in and talk about how the schedule looks to kick things off. It is a relatively balanced schedule. Next week, it's a disaster schedule, but it's a relatively balanced schedule this week, where we've got 8 games on Monday, 7 games on Tuesday, 9 games on Wednesday, 6 games on Thursday, 10 on Friday, 5 on Saturday, and 11 on Sunday. I think for the vast majority of you, you are going to be able to stream all days except for Sunday with 11 games on. The Friday can get a little iffy with 10. I think the majority of you, especially when there are injuries, game time decisions, abilities to slide guys into IL and stuff, that you'll be okay to stream the first 6 days of the week. The Sunday with 11 makes it really difficult. So when we're talking streaming for this week, we are going to focus on the first 6 days of the week. You'll also notice, just by looking at game volume there, that the first half of the week, the first 4 days of the week, is light. There are fewer games on the beginning of the week. There are a few teams that only play 1 game in the first 4 days of the week. The second half of the week is a lot heavier. We've got a 10-gamer and an 11-game day. And there's only 1 team in the final 4 days of the week that play 1 game, and that's the Orlando Magic. And again, we talk about what week it's. We've had Clippers week, we've had Hornets week. This week is like anti-Magic week, because the Orlando Magic, and if you are playing in a league which ends this week, you are dropping. And check your leagues, check your can't drop list, because on Thursday, the Magic season is over. If your league ends on Sunday, that is it for them. So after Thursday, you're dropping Bunkero, you're dropping Wagner. It's done on Thursday. They don't play Friday, Saturday, Sunday, which is actually great from a fantasy point of view, because you know that those games are done and you move on. You don't need to hold those guys if your week ends a Yahoo default. So just make sure, check your league. I don't know what Yahoo's can't cut list is. You know my takes on can't cut lists. You should can't cut lists. They shouldn't exist. They're stupid. They're ridiculous. And they create imbalances and idiocy in leagues. Shouldn't exist. But if they do exist, check, because I don't think Franz would be on it. If you're in a category league, Paolo would never be on it either. But in a points league, he may be. And you're going to want to get that fixed, because you're going to want to cut him on after Thursday if your league ends on Sunday. Yahoo default. So if Yahoo default has a can't cut list in a Yahoo default league, which ends on Sunday, and Paolo's on it, you're in real trouble. You need to, Yahoo, if you're watching, and I know you're not, I mean, if you should be though, you should be watching. If you are, remove Parler from the can't cut list. He's got to go off that because that is going to kill some teams. Please do what I say. So that's how the week looks coming up. What about games played? We've had the weeks where it hasn't been as large a volume week, but that is not the case this week. We have 22 teams playing 4 games. That means we've got 8 teams that play 3 games, obviously. Well, not obviously, because we could have 2-game teams, we could have 5-game teams, but we don't. So we've got a heavy concentration, meaning in weeks when there are 16 teams that play 3 games, having a 3-game week is not a disadvantage. Having a 3-game week this week is. When only 8 teams have it. I'll talk just who the 8 teams are that have 3 games. Brooklyn, Cleveland, Detroit, Minnesota, New Orleans, Orlando, Philadelphia, and Phoenix. And as per usual, when we're talking about standard leagues and daily transactions, the volume of the games matter. When the games are on also matters. Because, like I said with Orlando, they have 3 games. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. And that's it. So is that a bad schedule? Not really. That's not as bad as having a game on Monday and then not playing until Thursday and then not playing until Sunday. Like that's a horrific schedule because then you got those 3 games. They're widely spaced out. I think the Nets actually have that schedule, which is like obviously not good. So when we look at it in totality, it looks the same. Because we say, like, yeah, okay, they've all got 3 games. Good for them. Well done. Love that for you guys. Keep working. Keep grinding. Rise and grind. Whatever nonsense you want to chuck out there. But the week is different. They said, I'm just going to look on that for Brooklyn. So they play Monday, then Thursday, then Sunday. Dreadful schedule. Absolutely dreadful. And hamstrings you completely during the week. So they're bad as well. And it's different to Orlando. But they both have 3 games. Obviously, I don't need to read out the other 22 teams that play 4 games. That seems pretty pointless because it is. So we won't do it. What we will do, though, is just get into a little... should we get into a little stream zone action? Oh, we probably should. Let's... Let's first just talk about the list of quality games and some teams where it's good and some teams where it's not as good, bad, some might say. So we're talking and we're previewing this week as in that every day is a quality game day. That's not Sunday. And again, if you are here in the 24th week of this season, in the year 2025, at the 4,850th show that I've ever done, and you're asking the question, what's a quality game? Welcome to the show. Good to have you guys here. Can't believe you found us at this point, but good to have you here. What is a quality game? It is a game played on a day in the NBA when there are not that many games on. To me, the definition of that, I've done a lot of work over the last month to 2 months to try and figure out an optimal number here. We used to run at 9, now we run at 10. So if there are 10 games or fewer on that day, there is a large chance, 70% chance, say, that you will be able to stream players in. You will have an open, active roster spot that's not your bench. So if you add someone, you can actually play them. If it's 11 games or 12 or 13 or 14 or 15, you will probably just already have enough players on your roster that you won't have an open active slot, and adding a streaming guy gives you no advantage. You don't get an extra game played, you get nothing. So when we talk quality games, that's what we mean. We want to hit that 10 or fewer, and you play on those days, and that gives you that advantage. So we are talking this week about every day that's not Sunday. There are 4 teams that play 4 quality games this week, meaning they play 4 games, but not on Sunday. And they are key teams. They are going to be a big part of your stream plan for this week. Dallas, the Clippers, the Grizzlies, and the Heat play this week. 4 games without playing on the old, on Sunday. Some of those teams, like the Clippers, they have a pretty chock-full back-to-back period because they have a Friday-Saturday back-to-back, but they also enter the week on a Sunday-Monday back-to-back. And we know that that's going to mean that there is a potential, not guaranteed, because Kawhi, I think, probably does sit on Sunday. But if Kawhi plays Sunday, then he sits Monday, then he sits Thursday or Friday, and you get 2 games out of Kawhi only. So that 4 quality game from Kawhi drops. But what it means is that maybe Bogdanovic gets 30 minutes in 2 games this week, upping his value. And Derek Jones and Chris Dunn, their numbers all rise. Does Norman Powell play 2 games this week? Maybe. It's an interesting one. Dallas and Anthony Davis, you're in a similar situation. Like, you got to watch it because they've got that back-to-back as well. So do they come in? Does AD get 3 games this week? Probably. Well, almost definitely. Memphis and Miami, probably not too much to worry about, although Mr. Morant and his hamstring injury, you're not getting full load out of him, would be my guess. They only have the one back-to-back, though. And that's where we get the importance of the difference here. Because nearly every team, 22 teams, play 3 quality games. There are 4 teams who play 4. There are 4 teams who play 2. And the 4 teams playing 2, Brooklyn, who I just told you has got a terrible schedule, Cleveland, the Pelicans, and the Suns. So when we're targeting who to drop to maximize our stream chances this week, just have a quick peruse of your roster right now. Do you have anybody from those 4 teams? And we'll talk about which guys are probably worth holding and which ones are worth dropping. But Brooklyn, Cleveland, the Pelicans, and the Suns. That's a little bit of early show homework for you just to have a look at who you've got on your team from those clubs and figure out then whether we can move on and how we maximize our games. Today's episode, it is brought to you by Game Time. There is nothing like watching sports, basketball, live. It's the energy, it's the sound. It's whatever you sip. Someone courtside maybe. Maybe it's the arena food. Who loves a hot dog? Maybe it's you. Getting to the games is an experience that we all should take part in. But sometimes the process of getting those tickets is annoying. That's where Game Time comes in. Game Time's a new feature, Game Time Picks. It filters out the fluff and it shows you the best deals on the great seats. So you don't have to waste your time scrolling through thousands of tickets. It is so easy to go and check out the tickets for the events in your area. Just check out what's there, the super deals as well to give you the best bang for your buck, the seat views before you buy, no surprise fees on your tickets, the lowest price guarantee. Everything is there to book with total confidence. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. Okay, let's get back in now, and we've talked quality games. Let's get in and talk about just some little quirks across the schedule, because again, I think that is what we need to be looking at this point. As I just try to make sure my screen is working all right. Yep, the schedule quirks. Just a few little things to be aware of. We've covered a few of these things already, but there are 3 teams that do not play a game until Wednesday: Cleveland, Detroit, and New Orleans. So if you've got players on those teams, they don't play until Wednesday. So that is a late start, very clearly. So if you're considering, for some reason, despite me screaming at you, not really, but talking to you very calmly about why are you holding Ty Jerome or DeAndre Hunter or Max Strus, I'll tell you again, why are you holding DeAndre Hunter, Max Strus, or Ty Jerome? When these guys don't play again, 2 days to begin the week, you're wasting time. Detroit. Interestingly, last game, Tobias Harris was out. Guess who played over 30 minutes? Mr. Minutes restriction himself, Asar Thompson. So that is Asar Thompson with the potential of 24 minutes a night in the other games this week, but then no games to begin the week worth holding? Probably not. But again, that would depend on how you want to roll out the schedule for the week or how you want to play things out. Like they play, because they've got a weird little period here, because they play Wednesday, the Pistons, then Friday, Saturday. So they don't play, then they play 3 games in 4 nights, and they're off again on Sunday. So it's a very weird week. Again, schedules are different. So would you be worth holding for 2-0s to start the week? Probably not. But then adding a Schroeder or a Thompson, or Isaiah Stewart or Tim Hardaway or Malik Beasley for 3 games in 4 nights, yeah, huge W. But this is where the stream idea becomes very important, because you could say they've got a great 3-game in 4 night in the middle of the week, so I'm going to hold. But the benefit you get from the 3-game in 4 night from Wednesday to Saturday is nullified by the fact that you held for 2-0s to begin the week. So just always be aware of that. And then, like I said, this is the anti-Orlando week. The team that doesn't play on the weekend, there's only one of them, it's Orlando. The only team with 3 days off during the week, it's Orlando, Friday to Sunday. And one of the 2 teams that has 1 game in 5-night stretch, Orlando, Wednesday to Sunday. The other one is the other team that I mentioned with a terrible schedule, Brooklyn, who between Tuesday and Saturday play 1 game. Thursday. They go Monday, off, Thursday, off, Sunday. We already know that they're in this period of games now where they are starting to sit guys down and to rest players, and Darren Sharp's injured, and D'Angelo Russell and Cam Johnson, and they are starting to, after being really sort of competitive for a period of time, they are really now beginning to lean into that tank and trying to keep themselves competitive with Philly. to get themselves, which they are now, that they're in that spot where currently they're a half game ahead of the Sixers, but that's because they've played one more game, and Philadelphia does have the tiebreaker, but they just need to keep losing, stay at 23 wins, and the double benefit for them is if they stay at 5 and Philadelphia's at 6, if they stay at 5, they get the higher odds at getting the pick and improves their floor, but it also means that the likelihood of Philadelphia, an in-division, in-conference opponent, loses their pick, which helps them in the long run as well. So that's a double-edged sword. So that is why, again, it's important for Brooklyn to be 5 versus 6 just for their own pick, but improving the chances that Philadelphia doesn't keep their pick helps Brooklyn as well because it's in-division, it's in-conference, and it helps make that team not get as strong. So that's useful too. And the other team they're battling against is Toronto, another in-division, in-conference team. So the more that you can lose to push both of those teams, who are the two teams you're competing against, and let's also be clear, Toronto are 4 games behind Brooklyn in those standings. They are not pushing ahead of them. That is done. Toronto is going to stick in this spot. I'm very certain of this. They've won 3 in a row. We know they had this schedule against every bad team in the world. Toronto is not moving from this spot. I'm very, very, very certain of that at this stage. Let's look at a little bit more schedule stuff. In fact, let's go to the stream zone. And I think this week is relatively clear from streaming. We're going to look at it from a 4-move perspective and a 7-move perspective. I think if you're on a 4-move limit, like in a Yahoo default, you can do one of 2 things. You can do the 1-slot stream or the 2-slot stream, and the 2-slot stream does give you a marginal edge this week. But if you are doing a 2-slot stream, you can turn one of those teams that plays 2 quality games, which is, again, this is the purpose of streaming. How do I get more games? You can get a team, a player from Phoenix. This is why I told you to check whether you've got one of these guys on your team now. Phoenix, New Orleans, Cleveland, and Brooklyn. Anyone on those teams, like anyone on Brooklyn? Anyone. On Cleveland, not Mobley, not Mitchell, not Garland. Allen, probably not Allen either, right? You'd hold those guys. For the Pelicans, I actually think everyone's a drop. And in Phoenix, not Durant and not Booker. And everyone can be dropped there. So anyone from those teams, those 4 teams that I mentioned, that isn't the 4 big guys in Cleveland and Durant and Booker, you could drop those players, turn that roster spot into 6 games. And even though you might, Jarrett Allen becomes debatable. It becomes debatable. But I included Zion as a drop there because I don't think he's going to play. I think we might be getting into shutdown territory for Zion this week. So if you dropped a Zion off your team, we'll use him as an example, and he's got 2 quality games this week, which again, for him, you'd play him on the 11-game Sunday anyway, but I don't think he's going to be available all 3 games. So let's say you only got 2 games out of Zion this week. If you drop him, you turn 2 games into 6, tripling the value. Yeah, triple your value. That will be hard to beat. So how do you do it? So it is pretty easy. And what we want to do usually, because you can do it multiple ways, it's not that hard to figure out. But I want to give you the best opportunity with these streams to get the best value. So I could say, yeah, just stream Monday, Tuesday. But I believe doing a single day stream on Monday and then hitting a Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back and a Thursday, Friday back-to-back gives you the best grouping or the largest pool of players. Because there are 4 teams that go Tuesday, Wednesday back-to-back and 4 teams that go Thursday, Friday. So on Monday, just choose whoever you want. Single day stream. Tuesday, Wednesday, Atlanta, Denver, the Knicks, and the Spurs. And for the Spurs, there's a lot of options. Keldon, Harrison, Blake Wesley, you could go Mamu, you could go Biyombo, you could go Sohan, you could go Champagny. In Atlanta, you can go Levert if he plays. You can go Niang, you can go Krejci. There's a lot there. In Denver, you can go Peyton Watson. Westbrook if he was dropped. The Knicks are the bad one, clearly, but the others are good. And then you move into Thursday, Friday to get another 4 teams on back-to-backs. The Warriors, Post, Moody, Pajemski, Kuminga. These guys, if they're around, we look at them, not Peyton, he's out. The Lakers, less good options there, but Jackson Hayes if he was dropped. Rui Hachimura probably won't play the back-to-back, actually, bad idea. Dorian Finney-Smith could be an option. Portland, Scoot Henderson if he's been dropped, rightfully so, but now you get back on the track. Duop Reith, is he actually going to be a 20-minute-a-night player? It looks like it. Do we go with him? Matisse Thybulle, I don't know if he plays the back-to-back. And then Toronto, where anything can go, but I like Orlando Robinson there. I like some randoms like Cole Swider maybe. Jamal Shed is probably the guy that I really like. So we got really good opportunities to go the 2 back-to-backs in the middle of the week. And then on Saturday, you stream a single day. Sunday, there are 11 games on. You're probably full rostered anyway, so we're good. And that turns 2 games from a lower-end player from one of those 4 teams I mentioned into 6. That, to me, is relatively easy. We're going to come back and look at how you can work with 2 stream slots. Not that hard, but it does give you... And sometimes when we do the 2 stream situations, it doesn't always give you a big enough advantage, and it requires 2 very specific conditions to get there. This week, I don't think is one of those necessarily. I think we can actually get the 2 stream slots working and turn it into something good. You can turn 4 games by talking about somebody or dropping a Cleveland player, Brooklyn, New Orleans, or Phoenix, one of those guys that I mentioned earlier. You can, if you've got 2 of those players on your team, you can turn 4 games out of those fringy players into 10. That's a big W. That's +6. Remember, with 1 slot, we went 2 to 6, +4. With 2 slots, we can go to 4 to 10. And even if you don't have players or 2 players from those teams, if you've got 1 and then another player that plays 3 quality games, you can turn 5 games into 10. Still a +5 versus a +4 for 1 single slot stream. So it makes sense. In one of your slots, what you want to do is you want to target someone from any of these 4 teams. Dallas, the Clippers, Memphis, and Miami, because they play 4 games that aren't on Sunday. If you add someone there, again, you don't want to add one of the guys who's going to sit games, but you've got Scottie Pippen, Luke Kennard, you've got in Miami, Haywood Highsmith, Duncan Robinson, he's an iffy one. Khalil Ware, you've got Alec Burks. That was a terrible Alec Burks. Alec Burks, he's an option there. For the Clippers, Bogdanovich, Dunn, Jones. Dallas, that's iffy, but we know that by now Kessler Edwards is cooked. We know Brandon Williams is cooked. And what we also know, and I should have mentioned this at the top, is somehow grade 3 MCL sprain legend Daniel Gafford's going to come back a month ahead of schedule. And Derek Lively's coming back with a fracture in his foot. This team, the level of idiocy with this squad, I've never really seen it before, but we are going to have Davis, Gafford, and Lively all back this week. So, Kai Jones got hurt last week, you drop him. There is zero reason to hold Kai Jones, who's going to play 0 games here as we move. He's not going to play because Davis, Gafford, and Lively are all going to be returning this week. I don't know that I would necessarily want to rush to add Lively or rush to add Gafford just because, again, there's 4 games, but there's a back-to-back, and you might get 2 games out of them this week. That's not good. That's not good enough. But them coming back neuters other players, but Najee Marshall, Spencer Dinwiddie, Jaden Hardy. We like the values of those guys. Quentin Grimes, they don't have Quentin. I forgot they traded him. Max Christie, another guy you could look at there. What you then want to do is in that other slot, that's a single slot, just add the 4-game team. In the other slot, you go to a Monday, Tuesday back-to-back. So that's Chicago, Memphis, and Orlando. Then you switch it into a Wednesday, Thursday, Miami and Washington. And then you switch it into a Friday, Saturday, Dallas, Detroit, and the Clippers. Understanding you've got to hit the right players. So in Chicago, fan of pounds, Kevin Huerter. We love that. Miami, Washington. It could, the Washington one. Vukcevic, does he play back-to-backs? I don't know. AJ Johnson, maybe. Bub Carrington. And then Dallas, Detroit. Do you go with Dennis Schroeder? You probably do. Asar Thompson, yeah. And get 6 games in that slot, 4 in the other. That's 10 games in total to help your squad out. The next thing that I want to look at is now if we move into a 7-game stream slot, which is an ESPN standard. We can, in a 7-gamer, now I think with a 7-gamer, you could use 2 slots if you want. I don't think that's really going to be worth it. I think what you want to do is hit 3 streaming slots. And again, we're hitting those teams. Brooklyn, Cleveland, the Pelicans, and the Suns. Now, if you've got 3 fringe players from those teams, that would mean you are at a real disadvantage if you don't think smart. But if you have 3 of those players, you're in a real positive spot because you can turn those 6 games into 16. Of course, maybe you don't. And maybe you have 1 or 2 players there and another guy who plays 3 quality games. That's okay. That would mean you could turn 8 into 16 or 7 into 16. That's still a W, and that's still a move we can make. Similar to this one, in one of our slots, we add one of the 4 quality game teams. Dallas, the Clippers, Memphis, and Miami. And then honestly, in both of the other spots, we just do exactly the same as we did in the 4 slot, in the 4 move stream. We go a Monday, Tuesday, a Wednesday, Thursday, a Friday, Saturday, except you do that in 2 slots. And then in the 3rd slot, you just add one of those 4 quality game teams. And that gives you 16 games before you hit Sunday. And you just look at who you're... Even if you have none of the 2 quality game teams, I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have a lot of 3 quality game teams. And you turn 9 games into 7. 9 games into 16, which is 7 extra games. And just getting 7 extra games in through diligently managing your streams and understanding who's actually got enough value That's a huge part in winning. I hate that it is. I don't like the way that default fantasy does that. It shouldn't be the way. But it is, and I know you play in those leagues like 80% of you. So therefore, that's what you try to do. You try and hit those at the right point. Okay, we are going to just talk about some guys that I think we can consider as drops for the week in terms of streaming, and the guys that you can consider expendable. We've gone through some of these names already, but I'll just put it up in writing, I guess. Again, I don't think that there's any reason to hold a Nets player. We don't even know that Nick Claxton or D'Angelo Russell or Cam Johnson are going to play this week. I definitely don't, you don't want to hold on to Zaire Williams or Keon Johnson or Tosan Evbonwan or Drew Timme or Noah Clowney or Dayron Sharp. Who cares? Yeah, there might be some interesting single game streams, but you do know Monday, 0-0, Thursday, 0-0 Sunday. Absolutely not useful to hold these players. So despite them looking like, this guy might pop off, I think it's a complete waste to be bothering with these guys in week 24. Yahoo matchup 22. The Cavs guys, like I said, you hold on to Mitchell, Garland, Mobley, and probably Allen. But Jerome, Hunter, Strus, Merrill, you jack them. You don't hold them.
Get that garbage out of here.
I've told you there've been drops for weeks anyway. But now, it's very clear when you're one of only 4 teams who plays the 2 quality games, they've got to go. They've got to go. It is hurting your team to hold spuds like that in your squad who then don't play games. Useless. I think all Pelicans, like I said, obviously Zion's been very good, but he's getting ruled out with 3 days rest now on non-back-to-backs. See, my guy? You don't need to hold Makovic. You don't hold Olynyk. You don't hold Alvarado. You don't hold McCollum. Bruce Brown was great yesterday. You don't hold Bruce Brown. You don't hold Misi. You don't hold Jamal Cain. You don't hold Antonio Reeves. You don't hold Keon Brooks Jr. You hold nobody. You can single day stream them when it means something to you or when it's useful, but overall, you don't hold them. It's useless to do it. And then in Phoenix, I said, you hold on to Beal and Booker, but you don't hold on to BDNR, surely not. You don't hold Tyus Jones. You don't hold Bradley Beal. You don't hold Royce O'Neal. You definitely don't hold Bol Bol. You don't hold Colin Gillespie, even though he was great yesterday. None of these guys can be held on to. The things you look at, again, out of those 2 quality game players, Booker Durant and the big 4 in Cleveland, the rest, out of here. So what I now want to talk about is weekly leagues. And if you are in a league that locks weekly, I've got some ideas about weekly leagues. I'm not going to go into it completely here, but weekly leagues, the good thing about weekly leagues, I think, is A, it's less work during a week. B, you can do the thing which a lot of baseball leagues do and a lot of the traditional baseball leagues do, is have a single day during the week where there's a fab processing day, so you don't make as many rash decisions. You've got a little bit more data behind your ads, and you look to, is there more longer term value there? But the problem is in basketball, especially because the schedule's so different to what it is in baseball. It's like you play 6 games a week. In basketball, your guys might play 4 or 3 or 2. That leads to a lot more imbalances. So my idea with weekly leagues, and I do think there is, because we want to make, it is important, if you want to be sweaty and you want to be a sweat and grind and work the waiver wire at all hours and set alarms to wake up to pick players up, good for you. That's great. But not everyone wants to do that, and we have to have situations where that can't be the case. And while the traditional weekly lock league is bad, because again, there are too many problems with that and too many disadvantages, and it lets you getting cooked. Again, I'm just throwing this idea out there. I know there's not many people watching at this point of the year, so we're just going to get this idea out before I work on it a little bit more. But I think there's a way that we can have a hybrid weekly league where, and when I say hybrid, but we traditionally do a fantasy matchup where we compare totals. I have 350 points, you have 340 points. Yes? And that's who has the most wins. But what if we did it both ways? Where we did, total points, but then another category that's average points. So that if you take the advantage and get more games, you get credit for it. If you have the better players, you just get hit with injuries, the average part of it is there as well. And yeah, it leads to more categories, but in the end, who cares? You can just make it so it's a win or a loss versus like a 5-4 or whatever you want to do it. But you have points total, points per game. Rebounds total, rebounds per game. So that if you do get hit by the injury, the average works. And you don't want to have it so it's just the average. I think we want to have both parts in, and it's something I'm going to work on, and I will probably run a trial league on that next year. Anyway, that's like an idea that's been circulating. Weekly ads. These guys all play 4 games, and you probably consider starting them. Scoot's a risky one there. So is Tristan Vukcevic. But I just don't know what they're going to do with Vukcevic. I hope we get at least 22 out of him in 3 to 4 of the 4 games, and I think we can be okay, but that's risky. The next ones are not risky. Andrew Nembhard, Kevin Huerter, Keon Ellis. These are just must-roster players who are available in a lot of spots. But with a lot of teams not doing anything at the moment, leagues are not active, only 2 teams available, they might be there. So you grab Nembhard, you grab Huerter, you grab Ellis. And the last one, I could have put Kevin Porter here, who obviously was outplayed last game because he sucks. Or Gary Trent, but Ryan Rollins. He was great last game. He won't be that good, but Rollins and Trent, both with 4 games, 100% I'm looking at them over Kevin Porter at this point because as we thought, Porter started because Giannis was out. Giannis came back, Porter played 14 minutes because again, he sucks. I don't suck. Well, yeah, maybe sometimes. So it is the pencil day. I'm celebrating by sketching something out. I'm celebrating by being a screaming cowboy. And you're celebrating by hitting the subscribe button. Good luck in week 24. Good luck in your matchups. Good luck in your Roto League. Remember, max out your games. Check your games cap. Max them out. You might need to start streaming your ass off in Roto here to make sure you hit those games limits. Do it. Guys, we are done here. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya.